Hello, I'm Liselle Sambury and welcome back to my channel where I talk about all things traditional publishing and writing, including my own journey as an author. And this video is the mid-year check-in. So the way that I have restructured this for my channel is I do 2 of these a year. So at the beginning of the year, I did a check-in to update you on basically everything that had happened in 2022 and like where I was planning to go in 2023. And then this check-in is all about what I've accomplished so far in 2023 when it comes to my writing projects, where they're all sitting, what have I finished, what am I still working on, and then what am I planning to work on for the rest of the year. And so then at the beginning of 2024, I'll have a new video where I'll recap that latter half of 2023, and hopefully that all makes sense. But yeah, I'm just gonna talk about my projects. This is a great video if you don't want to keep up with my writing vlogs on the regular and you kind of just want to have a quick summary of what's going on. And yeah, so let's go ahead and get started. We're going to start with updates on ongoing projects. So these are basically any projects that I started working on in the beginning of the year and have continued working on, or continued working on from the beginning of the year. Either way, it was a project that was at least happening at some point from the beginning of the year. And so the first of those projects is Tender Beasts, which now both the title and cover have been revealed. I will pop it up on the screen somewhere, probably over here. So yes, we have a title reveal, we have a cover reveal. If you've been watching my other videos but hadn't seen the whole cover title reveal thing, this is the project that I had previously called Bear Hunt. It is my 2024 YA psychological thriller / horror book about a wealthy Black family in Toronto who run a needs-based private school where a series of gruesome murders start to take place, and the main character's brother is implicated. But she's not 100% sure she believes him, but they're still going to work together to try and find the real killer and really protect her mother's legacy, which is not only this school, but their entire family. So that is Tender Beasts. I got to come up with that title myself. This is the first time where the title in my book has changed and I've come up with the new title and everyone's liked it. So I'm very excited about that. So that is kind of the big update for Tender Beasts. So that's exciting because we'll start to, get the ball rolling on this whole publishing schedule and the promotion and all of that stuff. But in terms of where the project is sitting right now, as of the day this video is posting, that is my deadline for copy edits on the book, which is the kind of more, the edits that are more for consistency, things like dates, but also grammar and word choice, and really kind of narrowing down on that final edit. And this is the last edit I will do before the book becomes an arc, before they start making advanced reader copies and sending those out to people. And so that's the stage that it is at currently, which is great because it means that all I have left is 2 rounds of past pages. And I really say 1 round of past pages because 1 round I'm reading the book fully, and the next round I'm just making sure any changes that I made in the first round did get carried over to the second round, unless I'm feeling, squirrely and I want to reread the whole thing again, which does happen sometimes. So I'm very nearly done. And it will be coming out, the date on Amazon says it is coming out in February, basically the same date as Delicious Monsters, which I was surprised because I thought we were kind of not finishing edits a little bit later. But yeah, so it will be out in February of 2024. And so that's very exciting. So I'm really happy to be returning to kind of a big family dynamic, and to a Toronto setting, which is exciting. So it is also a standalone. I couldn't remember if I'd said that, but it's a standalone, and I have links below to pre-orders and that sort of thing, and also to content warnings if you need those. The next ongoing project to talk about is the All These Sunken Souls anthology. I have an arc here, so I figured I'd show it up. The ring light is not being super kind to it. But this is an anthology being edited by Circe Moskowitz, and so I am a contributor for this one. And this one, as an ongoing project from 2023, for 2022, is all done. So I am finished as far as I know. But I've done past pages, so I assume that I'm done now, which is great, and I'm very excited about getting to kind of tick that off, and excited to have people like reading the stories and like seeing it all come together. So that's really exciting. And my story in this is about a sleepover gone wrong, which is like a trope that I'm like so excited that I got to like get into, or like a scenario. It feels like a familiar horror scenario that I got to put my own spin on. So I'm very excited about that. And so that one is all done. And then for this one, there is another anthology. I still kind of question mark, don't know if it's been fully announced at this point yet. I mean, I can see it on my Goodreads page, but I'm not sure. So I'm just going to err on the side of caution. But this is an anthology in which I have a middle grade sci-fi story. And so I'm finished with this one. So I've gone through all of the edits, and so we are again done and dusted on this one. This one for sure, I know 100% is done, whereas all these Sunken Souls, I was like, I don't know if one more edit might pop up, but this one is for sure completed, which is great. And this one is that little, I have a story about a girl trying to save her parents' space potato farm, which I thought was very fun to do, and like a fun concept. And like the great thing about doing this as a short story is like, this is something that I don't think I would have ever written a full book about, but as a short story, it works really well. And so I'm excited about that one. And that was kind of a tougher project because I did have to rewrite a lot of it at one point. I'd had kind of a secondary character that we decided probably wasn't really necessary. And so I had to go back and pull that character, lessen that character, I suppose. I didn't pull them out, I just kind of lessened them. And so I had to do all of that, but it is now all ready to go and done. And then finally, for ongoing projects, there is one more anthology. This one also hasn't been announced, but it will be a young adult one. I believe I already said, like, I wrote a young adult fantasy story for this, like a fantasy romance. And so where I'm at with this project is I had done my first kind of like sent off edit. So I did my first draft and I did a self edit and I sent that off to the editor. But I believe the dates on this one are shifting around. So I haven't done any edits on it again, but I suspect that I will be doing so kind of later in the year, but I'm not 100% sure on dates for that one. So I will be working on it more at some point. I'm just not sure when at this point. But I'm happy with what I sent in because I don't usually write a plot romance. I usually write romance as like a B plot or a subplot. So it was an interesting challenge for myself to try and do it in a different way and to make that the focus. And I think that'll be really helpful because you'll see I will be talking about a project later where I talk about pumping up the romance more. So this was very helpful to me. Now we're going to talk about new projects. So these are projects that I started for the first time in 2023. And we're going to begin with the horror trio. So I decided to do a proposal for a trio of horror stories, all set in Toronto, all happening over 24 hours and all kind of interconnected, but in a way where they could still be read as standalones. But also if you read every book, then you get to see all the different like connections and that sort of thing happening. So I wanted to put a proposal together for that. And so that required me to do a pitch letter. I ended up doing a pitch letter for all of the books, as well as like a second kind of page detailing how they're all connected. And then I did a synopsis and then the first 60 pages, or first 6 chapters, whichever kind of came closest. Or was it first 50 pages, first 6 chapters? One of those I had done. And honestly, when I looked in the calendar, I kind of couldn't believe that I had done that this year. For some reason, I thought I had already started it, but I had not. I think I had ideated a lot of it in 2022, so it felt like I had like done it, but I didn't actually start doing it until this year, which is kind of wild. But yeah, so I got all of that put together and went back and forth on that with my agent, and we sent that off on submission, and it is currently on submission. So that's kind of everything going on with that. But it's a concept that I really love. Like, I really love that idea of the interconnectedness, and like it feels very like horror franchise. Like it feels very like, you know, like Netflix Fear Street and like Scream. And like it's got that sort of feel to it, and that's something I really like about it. And so yeah, I put that proposal together and it is off on submission. The last new project that I started I guess in the beginning of the year is the couples retreat, the title of which I have changed but don't want to share. So I have to keep reminding myself to call it this. And my gosh, our titles are some of the most like elastic things in publishing, I find. But this is an adult thriller horror, I'm now thinking. I've talked about in my vlogs a little bit about this, but some sort of mix of thriller and horror, but it might end up being more thriller. I'm not really sure. I'm discovering as I go about drafting it. But it is essentially about a couple that go to a couples retreat to fix their relationship, and things go awry. And that's kind of as much as I can think to say collectively, but also want to say about the concept, because there is more to it, but I don't want to get into it. So that is basically what that project is. And so this year I've done all of my kind of character building stuff and my plotting stuff, and I have started drafting it. So I am now in the process of doing my first draft, which is exciting. Also kind of terrifying because I'm always like very scared about drafting, but it's exciting to see all of this stuff that I've worked on plotting, because I did end up working on plotting for a lot longer than I thought I would. It's cool to see that kind of come together now and actually putting in the narrative. And like some things about character are changing as I'm writing and some things are staying the same, but I'm enjoying the process of it, and I'm enjoying getting to do different things. I feel like I'm doing a lot of different things in this book with structure. It has a different sort of structure, in that I'm kind of, you know, I'm aligning it by the days that they are there. There are some like fun twists and turns that I have planned, and yeah, it's interesting to do this sort of character relationship as well. I do have a second POV, but I'm starting to wonder if I might cut the second POV, but I haven't decided. I had a second point of view character that's someone that works at the resort, and I did that primarily because I wanted to talk about kind of workplace environment things, but I found that I started doing that with the main character anyway, so I'm kind of wondering if I might need to cut that POV, but I don't know yet, so I'm just continuing to write it. This is also my first book doing a adult scene, if you will, which is like kind of as embarrassing as I thought it would be, but also not as embarrassing as I thought it would be. So, you know, getting into new frontiers for me. If this gets published, it'll be one of those books where to my family I'll be like, you aren't allowed to read it though, or if you must, bring me your copy and I will rip out the pages that are relevant and you can read the rest, and just like, you don't need to know what goes on at that time. But anyway, it's interesting discovering I guess problems that other people have when they write so-called spicy scenes. But anyway, so it's fun to be able to get to try new things, and I do really feel like I'm pushing myself with this book, which I'm happy about because this is like, I want to say the fourth time I'm attempting an adult horror thriller, but I feel like each time I've attempted, I've learned something new, and so this has become part of the process, and I feel like this has really helped me to get to this point with this book, which will hopefully be the one that works out. So that's kind of my plan right now. I'm just going to continue drafting. I am going to go on a research trip, I believe in August. We'll see, just to kind of visit the place where this book is taking place and like get some more details and more setting things, because just schedule wise I wasn't able to go any earlier or do it before drafting, and I didn't want to push drafting to when I was going to go, and so I just started to go ahead with that. So I'm going to be drafting, and I think I'll be traveling when I'm in the self-edit phase, so I should be able to get that done and then have it off to both beta readers and my agent. I finally gotten to the stage of my career where I feel like I've sent my agent enough things that like only I have looked at or edited, that I no longer feel like I have to send her, I can only send her something that has been beta read, which is the way I'd kind of felt earlier on. Like I only wanted to send her stuff that had been beta read so that I could be like, this is like the most perfect this could possibly be. But now I think she's seen enough of stuff only I've edited that I'm like, I'm just going to send it to her and to beta readers at the exact same time. Also because I need to save time if I want to be sure we can go on submission with it in January of 2024. So that is the plan, and I am just trucking along on this project. And now I'm going to talk about future / upcoming projects. So what do I have that you have not heard me talk about this year that I'm going to be working on? And so that is all about A Mastery of Monsters, which if you've been following me on my channel, you'll know is my young adult dark academia project. So in 2022, I was working on this project the whole year. And I have a bunch of vlogs that I will link down below if you want to check those out. But I like did a research trip to Kingston, Ontario to go check out that area where it's set and like visit my alma mater there, Queen's University, which is the the academia of the dark academia, if you will. And by the end of the year, I had finished a first draft. And my plan was that I was going to have something edited and ready to go on submission with to my publisher in 2023. But you will know that I went on submission with the horror trio, that proposal that I talked about earlier. And so why that happened is essentially when I finished the first draft, I thought about all of the things I needed to do to get this book into a state that I want, that I would feel good going out on submission with, and I just felt like I didn't have time to do all the things that I wanted to do. And I think this was very much a theme for me in 2022. I just felt like I didn't have time to do all the things I wanted to do because I took on more projects than I potentially should have. And then I was just like in this state of overwhelm. And so that ended up kind of being part of the reason I just kind of felt really overwhelmed by everything I had to do for this, because it is a very big world, and this is kind of a planned trilogy. And so I also wanted to like plan out what was going to happen in the other two books, and it was too much, and I didn't want to feel rushed, and that's why I did the horror trio proposal instead. But during this year, I went back to the project to like, you know, take a peek and do all that stuff. And it was in much better shape than I thought it was, because I had also at the end of the year like felt like it was bad and I like needed to rewrite it. But then when I looked back on it, I was like, oh, this is fine. So I think I was just like very overwhelmed and I needed space from the project more than anything else. And so I was able to have space. And so I looked back at it and it's in much better shape than I thought it would be. And I basically kind of wrote down all of the things I felt that I needed to fix about the story and what all of those things would be. So I wanted to do a lot more research. A lot of character arcs where I had really robust plans for them ended up falling flat because I just didn't feel like I had time to get it all into the draft in the amount of time I had to like finish when I wanted to finish. And so a lot of them felt flat, so I wanted to fix that. And then just like later on certain things I thought of plot wise that I think needed to be fixed. I think the mystery in the story needed to be a lot better. I wanted better twists and turns. I wanted a lot more from that. And then also the romance. So that's what I was talking about with the romance earlier. I felt like it wasn't coming off as well as it could have. So for this book, it is a very slow burn romance, but I wanted there to be more cute moments in between to like satiate people to make it worth waiting for a payoff. And I didn't feel like there were enough of those. But essentially when I wrote all that stuff down, I was like, oh, this is actually quite doable. And I like planned it out in a calendar. Like I figured out how many days I could devote to each thing that I needed to do and like how long that would take me. And I planned all that out and it is very doable. And so I'm going to be doing it. My goal is to get a really solid self-edited draft that I feel is like really in good shape, like in a good top-notch shape that I am happy with. And so that's kind of my goal going forward in 2023 for it. And I feel like it is very doable. I'm feeling like the excitement and the vigor of like working on this project again, which I really love, and is very like, to me, very like inspired by a lot of the like anime that I've really loved growing up, and like incorporating that into like a book format, into a series, and like getting to do that. And a lot of stuff that I just like love in books, like I love a competition and like dark academia with like the school setting and all of that, and like secret societies and stuff. And so I was really excited for that. And I feel like a lot of the insecurities I had about the book in 2022 that kind of held me back, I feel like I've really let go of now. Like I think I was like, oh, there's like, this feels too similar to a book I have, and this feels too similar to this, and I was like, is it though? And I think I've really come down from that. So I think more than anything, the space from the project was really good. And so yeah, that is something that I'm going to be going back to working on. And I think I've let go as much of like, oh, I gotta plan out the other 2 books and have that planned out beforehand, because I think I have a really good idea of what those other 2 books are going to be now. And so I feel less panicked because I've had more ideating time. Because this whole time, even when I wasn't working on this book, I've been obsessively thinking about this book because that's just the sort of person I am. So yeah, so I'm going to go back to working on that, and yeah, very excited. For this little reflection, I think things have gone much better this year. I certainly feel significantly less overwhelmed. I feel like 2022, I felt overwhelmed for a lot of the kind of like latter half of that year, whereas now I feel like I have a better hold on what I have going on. I'm not ever working on more than 2 projects at once, which is exactly what I wanted. And most of the time I'm only working on 1 project at once, which is also what I wanted. I'm sure it'll be a little bit more too, since I've now decided I want to work on a Mastery of Monsters, but it still feels very comfortable. June is a little bit more compact just because June or July? June? What month is it? June! Is a little bit more compact, just because I have another thing that I'm doing. I'm doing a kind of jury type thing in June, and so that's compacting me a little bit, but it's still quite doable. It just means I work in the morning, then I also work in the afternoon instead of like just working in the morning, which is my preference, but again, it feels very comfortable, which is really what I'm appreciating. I have said no to more things, no to things that, you know, just I don't have the time and I need to kind of work within my time so that I can have that very comfortable working experience. And Notion continues to be extremely helpful to me. I started using Notion very much in earnest last year for helping me with organizing my writing ideas, but also my like writing schedule more than anything. And that's been very, very helpful in like keeping me on track and helping me know kind of how much time I need to work on a project and how much time I have, and like predicting when certain edits are going to come, and like just helping me juggle things and kind of knowing this is how much I'm gonna have to do in a month, and also just like keeping track. It's nice. I've like created this whole thing where I have like little progress bars, and so, you know, as I'm drafting, I've been like adding how many chapters out of like the 40 odd some chapters I have to go. And then the little progress bar increases and I can see what percentage I've finished of the book. And that's been very helpful to me. I found that to be very rewarding, along with all of the little check boxes. And so that's been really helpful to me. I do have some videos also that I'll link down below where I talk about how I use Notion to help me organize my writing and my schedule and all of that. So I'm just overall, as I wanted, the beginning of this year, and hopefully the end of this year as well, has been much more relaxed, much more balanced, in a way that I think is really good. And so, you know, it's kind of a live you learn thing. Like sometimes you have to say no to things for the purpose of just like giving yourself space. And I think as an author, especially in traditional publishing, you can sometimes feel like you don't have control over a lot of things. And so saying yes to a bunch of different things is like a way to be like, I'm doing something and I'm promoting and I am being active and trying to sell my book. But you can't do it all. And like sometimes you just need to take that step back. And I think something I've also told myself is like, just because you don't do one event does not mean your career will spontaneously end, or you're suddenly like, oh, you could have made 500 sales. I don't know what that would have done. And so it's best to focus on things I have time for and that I'm passionate about. And that's what will allow me to show up in the best way possible. So that is that for that whole kind of reflection. That's it for this mid-year check-in video. As I said before, this will be my last check-in video of the year, but if you want to see how the latter half of 2023 has gone, watch the video that I will post in the beginning of 2024, which will recap all of that, which feels wild to say because again, we're only halfway through the year, but that will be coming. I am shocked to be halfway through the year at all. And also, if there was any of those projects that I talked about that you are particularly interested in, I will also link playlists down below. So I will create playlists for whatever projects that I'm working on. So if you want to see all of the writing vlogs in which I talk about those projects, then you can kind of watch all of those in one little block together. Oftentimes I'm working on multiple projects, so I will mention other projects, but just kind of if you're like, oh, I want to see like the beginning of this dark academia thing that she talked about going back to, then you can check out that playlist and see the whole thing. So yeah, thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe. And thank you again so much for watching. Bye.